Secretary Duque, you still recall that about 1 month ago, you also appeared before us but in another committee when this particular item was initially inquired upon. I'm referring to the 42.4 billion peso transfer DOH fund to PSDBM, which was initially taken up under a different committee of the House of Representatives. Do you recall that, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do.
As a matter of fact, you submitted to us a preliminary report where at that time you made mention that this particular issue, itong fund transfer na to, consisting of 42.4 billion pesos, has been partially resolved. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Kasi po yung nakalagay na deficiency doon, if I can quote this, sabi niya, the COA made a findings, sabi niya, fund transfer, documentary deficiencies, and unliquidated damages. End quote. Hindi ba nakalagay yun, Secretary?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Ang nakalagay lamang po, kaya finlag na mayroong deficiency, sabi niya, fund transfer documentary deficiencies and unliquidated balances. In that particular report that you submitted to us 1 month ago, you contested that finding, telling COA that a MOA is not necessary under a particular rule of the GPPB. Do you recall having said that?
Exactly, Mr. Chairman.
And then you also contested the findings of COA requiring you to submit liquidation on pending procurements because DOH is in a continuing process of procurement. That was your argument. Is that not correct?
Precisely, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay. Considering that 1 month ago, you made a report that it was partially resolved. Am I to understand now that today, 1 month later, na-resolve na po ba niyo ito fully with the COA?
Not yet, Mr. Chairman. We have submitted the letter of the PSDBM saying that there is, in fact, no need to enter into a MOA with them, no? So,
Secretary, is COA still insisting on the memorandum of agreement as a requirement to your fund transfer?
well, our meeting this morning with COA.
Now, my question is COA is still insisting that there should have been a memorandum of agreement in the transfer of funds?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is still that insistence.
Did you not tell COA that I think they are requiring you to submit a MOA on the basis of their own circular? This is circular number 94-013. But did you ask or did you tell COA that this circular cannot go against or it cannot even prevail under Bayanihan 1 because Section 7 of Bayanihan 1 categorically said that any rule, any regulation, any law, any order that is inconsistent with this law will be nothing. And COA should understand that. I think the COA representatives are present today, Mr. Chair. Ibig ba nilang sabihin, yung kanilang circular na rin will prevail over Republic Act 11469 or Bayanihan 1? Ito po yung nagiging problema. Ang sinasabi lang po rito ay fund transfer documentary deficiencies. Wala pong deficiency rito because they cannot insist on their circular, Secretary Duque, because their circular cannot prevail against the law that Congress gave the Executive Department in order for you to procure the supplies expeditiously and at that time you needed them most. Sa makatwid, wala talagang corruption dito because even the COA said, ang fund transfer lang na deficiency is only centering on documentary deficiencies. It's only a matter of documentation. Earlier, Mr. Chair, even the COA categorically said that there was no overpricing, there was no ghost delivery, and there were no corruption. O bakit ngayon ano na naman ang pinalilitaw? Teka, bago ako magpatuloy meron ako naisip, Mr. Chair. Total, nandiyan na po si Secretary. Mr. Secretary, I need to inform you that some reports came to my office that there are private citizens calling your attention. I think they filed a complaint before your office. Hindi ko alam kung dumating na po sa inyo. It's about certain staff in a hospital in Subic who were tested positive by the PRC laboratory in Subic. They are all vaccinated staff of the hospitals. And because they doubt the result, that they became positive, they have themselves retested on September 6. Nangyari po to September 3 After three days, they have themselves retested in another facility. And 44 out of the 49 false positive, Mr. Chair, nag-negative silang lahat. Meaning to say, there is about 90% error in the laboratory of the Philippine Red Cross in Subic. Anyway, I'm not going to expound on this. I think my colleague here, Congressman JJ, will expound this kasi mukhang nakaka-alarma po yung considering our need to be very accurate in our data. Mahirap po ito kapag hindi na ninyo na ayos ito. Ay. Are you aware of this, Secretary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have with me the actual communication coming from a complainant, but who has requested for anonymity. But I do confirm that there is that complaint which is being investigated now by the lab network headed by under Assistant Secretary Nestor Santiago, whom I believe has already relayed to the RITM to do an evaluation or an assessment of this complaint.
Okay, Secretary, meron din po kasing ang daming nagtatanong sa akin dahil yung pong ibinayad natin sa PRC na nanggaling po sa PhilHealth. Now, by the way, how much have we paid so far? Somebody told me that the PhilHealth already paid 6 billion pesos to Philippine Red Cross. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
In employing RT-PCR, ito pong testing natin, tama po?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Po nila kasing malaman, nagsimula po kasi yung cost niya na 4,000 pesos per testing. Ngayon po magkano?
If my recollection serves me right, it's about now 2,800.
Okay. Sa Makatwid po, merong variable ito Nagsimula po sa 4,000, ngayon naging 2,800. Bakit po kaya hindi 500 pesos or 300 pesos? Considering that we are paying Red Cross 6 billion pesos po ito. Bakit hindi po nila ibigay na lamang testing at cost? Is the DOH undertaking a study on the cost of this testing, Mr. Secretary?
The costing formula of the PRC is something that is out of the purview of the department, but we do have our own costing, and their costing is well within the formula that the DOH has established for private and public laboratories. We can send you the costing formula for this, Mr. Chairman.
Kasi po, kung hindi naman natin makita kung paano nila kino-cost, or maybe we can compare the cost of the cost in DOH itself or the cost in other private companies para makita naman po natin kung pareho lang. Kasi yung 4,000 pesos, they started at 4,000 pesos, ngayon 2,800. We need to also see whether or not the costing is based on reasonable terms. Kung hindi naman po, I know PRC is non-profit, non-stock. Sana kung hindi tayo nagbabayad o nagbibigay ng ganong kalaking pera, 6 billion pesos have been funneled to PRC. Kailangan po siguro merong way para malaman natin that they are administering the test at cost. Tama po?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will just send promptly the costing formula and to show the price cap or the testing fee ceiling that the DOH together with the DTI has formulated for both public and private. Kasi iba-iba pong sistema. Iba-iba rin pong mga variables, no? So halimbawa, ang isang laboratory, kung government, no, ito po, sa public, ang plate-based testing ay nagkakahalaga ng 2,800 pesos for public. Ito yung price cap for the cost of RT-PCR testing. Sa private naman, price cap for cost of procedure is 3,360. Kung meron naman price cap for home service, may karagdagan 1,000 pesos po. This is for the plate-based RT-PCR testing. This is the latest costing or fees that have been established by both DTI and the DOH.
Sige po, pero inaasahan namin na siguro magkaroon tayo ng mechanism para makita natin kung yung testing costs ay tama lamang po doon sa what we are trying to say, Mr. Secretary, there is a need for us to rationalize the costings, mapa-private, mapa-public. I think we need to do this sapagkat malaking pera din ang binibigay natin sa Philippine Red Cross. 6 billion pesos po. Sa nakikita ko naman, hindi naman dapat siguro ganun kalaki unless they are able to justify. But the only way for them to do this ay makita natin yung costing, Mr. Secretary. I know they're trying to help, pero kailangan din nating ma-rationalize yung pondong binibigay natin sa kanila. Salamat po, Mr. Secretary. I hope you can find time to look into this also.
We will do, Mr. Chairman. We will do. Certainly the investigation has commenced. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Balik ako kay Mr. Chair, kay Yusek Lau.
Yusek Lau, please answer questions.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Yusek Lau,
Opo, Mr. Chairman.
narinig mo na ba yung kwento ng isang taong naghahanap ng isang bagay na nawala? Nasa ilalim siya ng isang poste na may ilaw. Have you heard of that story?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Sa ngayon, malalaman mo. Ayan nga, naghahanap siya ng isang bagay, paikot-ikot siya sa lugar na yon. Merong nakapansin sa kanya, tinanong siya, Mama, ano po yung hinahanap ninyo? Nawala ko kasi susi ng bahay ko eh. Nawala ko doon sa may, yung tabing, meron kasing maliit na woods eh. Parang forest to sa tabi niya. Nagtaka yung tao na nagtanong sa kanya, doon po pala nawala. Bakit dito po ninyo hinahanap? Ang sagot ng matanda, Yusek Lau, dito yung may ilaw eh. Do you understand the gist of that story?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Kung talagang nawala, may hinahanap siya kung ano man yun, doon niya hanapin. Bakit nandun siya sa ilaw? Malaking publicity rito, pare. Okay?
Not on my part, Mr. Chairman.
Nandoon yung instrument na nagagamit. Alin ba talaga ang gusto nating sabihin dito? Are we doing this for the good of the country? Like what our chairman elucidated earlier? O naghahanap ka ng wala sapagkat nasa ilalim ka ng ilaw ng publisidad? Did you get the story?
I got the story, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, DS Marcoleta. Next to interpolate is the Honorable Vice Chair, Johnny Pimentel.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
with the permission of Vice Chair Johnny Pimentel, just a rejoinder to the interpolation of Deputy Speaker, Deputy Speaker Johnny Pimentel to Deputy Speaker Dante Marcoleta. My name was mentioned, and I just want to follow on the issue that was tackled. Because baka mawala po tayo sa line of thinking at malito na naman yung tao. Nabanggit po kanina, and I request for Secretary Duque. Secretary Duque. Mabilis lang naman to. Secretary Duque, it was mentioned that a certain individual filed a complaint about the results that happened in a PRC laboratory in Subic. Can you confirm this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is the complaint.
Can you enlighten us in this matter, Secretary? What are the details of this complaint?
Well, the letter has been sent to the DOH and in particular to the lab network headed by Assistant Secretary Nestor Santiago. The gist of the complaint is revolves around a particular lab in Subic Bay, Freeport. This pertains to the Red Cross test that was done on September 3, 2021, where 49 hospital personnel allegedly tested all positive. And then on the doubts of the persons who were tested, because of a huge percentage of positivity, they decided to have themselves retested by another laboratory in the medical city, Clark. This was done on September 6, 3 days after the first test. And out of the 49 personnel, it is alleged that 44 of them tested negative. So the complainant was asking that the DOH verifies these numbers, and which I have instructed the lab network and the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine to validate these numbers. But that is the gist of the complaint, Mr. Chairman, Your Honors.
Secretary Duque, if this number of false positives will be verified and proven authentic, would you consider this alarming?
Well, that is now the subject of an investigation, but normally that is an outlier. The percentage of positivity at about 89% is certainly out of the ordinary.
Kasi, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman, I just want to continue the line of thinking, no? Ang laki po nun. 44 out of 49 tested positive, but when they retested, dahil hindi nga sila makapaniwala na positive sila, lumabas negative naman sila. Ang dami po nun. Ngayon, the mental anguish, anxiety, and stress caused to those individuals cannot be explained. Ang mas malungkot pa dito, Mr. Chairman, kung yung 40 yun ay hindi nakapagparitest at napilitan mag-isolate na hindi naman pala sila tunay na positibo sa COVID-19. Mr. Chair, I would like to stress this point because Secretary Duque, 14 days isolation is no joke. And I do understand that 14 days isolation is necessary for those who are truly tested positive. So we really need to look into how the testing is being done, especially if these testings are being paid for. Binabayaran naman natin yung pagtetest. So dapat ang makuha nating resulta ay yung totoo naman. Kasi dito tinitingnan natin na patuloy na tumataas yung bilang ng mga COVID positives natin. How sure are we? How sure are we? Now, they were lucky enough to have themselves retested. Mr. Chairman, for the record, I know of 2 other individuals who went through the same mental anguish, had themselves tested, lumabas positive, hindi sila makapaniwala kasi hindi sila lumalabas ng kanilang mga tahanan. Nagpa-retest sila same day, negative. So, again, Mr. Secretary Duque, just to add my point, and I'm thankful that DS Johnny Pimentel allowed me for my rejoinder to the point mentioned by our dear colleague. Paano naman po kaya yung mga kababayan natin who cannot afford a re-swab? May mga quarantine facilities tayo na para lang magpa-quarantine, kailangan po silang magbayad. So dito, nagbayad na sila, mali ang test result, nagpa-quarantine sila, magbabayad na naman sila. Ano po ang opinion nyo tungkol doon, Mr. Secretary? At sa palagay po ninyo, ano po ang dapat nating gawin?
Kanya nga po kanina, akin po binigyan din na ang investigasyon ay isinagawa kagad ng Department of Health at saka ng RITM. So, ito po ang very technical procedure of the investigation is handled by the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine. Unless the results of the investigation come out, no, ay mahirap naman po akong magsabi na ito na yung conclusion dahil wala pa naman po tayong resulta. So as soon as the results of the investigation come out, then we will submit. We will
Congressman Suarez.
Yes, we will submit this, the consolidated evaluation that will be undertaken by RITM will then be forwarded to the Health Facility Service Regulatory Bureau that will now make the determination what will be the sanctions, if any, but more than that, what will be the corrective action. Because all these laboratories are important in our overall pandemic response. And what we would want to happen is to assist all laboratories, whether this is national government or local government or private laboratories, because they're all important in our pandemic response. So that any deviation of results, such as this complaint, must be carefully looked into by our investigating bodies, such as the RITM and the Health Facility Service Regulatory Bureau.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's my rejoinder, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Congressman Pimentel, for allowing me. I would just like to stress, Mr. Chair, na I would understand kung 10 kayo o sabi mo ng 20, may isa siguro nagkamali. Kaso lang dito po, 49 nagpa-test, 4 na po ang lumabas positive. Tapos nung nagpa-retest yung 4 na po, negative naman po pala. So parang napakalaki naman po nun. So I hope that we address this, Secretary Duque, because it is truly unfair and unjust to the individuals and to the families if they will not be receiving the true, honest health result that they have paid for. Yun lang po, maraming salamat.
Thank you, Congressman Suarez.